Hey folks, it's Tom, your frugal prepper. So I am no master automotive diagnostician by any means. I'm still learning, and I'm trying to watch a lot of the Scanner Danner videos. I like the Schrodinger's box videos. I love Eric O at South Main Auto, Ivan from Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics, and Keith from is it New Age Auto. He's the absolute master. But I find like Scanner Danner really takes a lot of time to go through things, which is helpful. Now, I haven't done his pay channel yet. I've just been looking at his free stuff, and I'm kind of experimenting and trying to learn. But I have the advantage of having a pretty decent electronics background. I've played with electronics since I was a kid, taken a few classes here and there, but mostly I'm self-taught. But also, I'm a ham radio operator, and I've done a lot of ham radio projects. You have a tendency to learn the things you need to know there, too. But I want to talk a little bit about if you're mechanically inclined and you can turn wrenches, but you just don't understand electronics to even kind of start to get a grasp. I think this book right here is probably the best book that there is. It's only 128 pages. It's written in very, very plain English. If you want to learn like what a transistor is, what a resistor is, what a and all this kind of things, you want to learn about impedance, and you want to learn about resistance, and you want to learn about diodes, that kind of stuff, and very basic circuits and a lot of the theory behind it, but in a very simple, easy to understand method. I mean, this book's awesome. I used to have the original copy of this, and I bought this one just before Radio Shack went out of business. This is a book that was just sold only at Radio Shack, and they're out of business now, but you can still find these used on Amazon. So if you are interested in getting a good basic electronics background in a very plain English, common sense way, this is just an excellent, excellent book. I'll kind of back up so you can see the whole thing. It's by Forrest M. Mims the Third, is the person who wrote it. It's probably one of the best getting started kind of, just learning basic electronics books that there are. One thing you're going to need, you're going to need a good multimeter, a good digital multimeter. There's a number of them out there. I really like this one. This is a Velleman. Velleman makes a lot of electronics kits and parts and stuff for the hobbyists. So this is probably technically more of a hobbyist meter. This little guy does everything. Let's say it was around $100. It's got a nice protective case, but it's got transistor testers, all your different settings. It's not auto-ranging. I hate auto-ranging meters because they take too long to determine what range they should be in. But if you don't want to spend the money on a fluke, but you want a really good meter, I would consider this one. It's a Velleman DVM 890F. I believe it's still made and sold. I got this at a local electronics store, or semi-local, but I'm sure I'll put a link down to it below if I can find it on Amazon. I personally believe you're still going to want a good old analog meter. And a lot of people think, that's silly and crazy. There's no better way to measure a potentiometer, i.e. throttle position sensor, than with an analog meter. If you want to know if it has dead spots. See, the thing about analog meters is you don't want to use them on some things on cars because they have a high or a low impedance way of measuring, or these are a high impedance. So these actually conduct a little current through them, and that can be bad on some circuits in cars. But if you're disconnecting that throttle position sensor and you want to turn it, and you want to see if there's any dead spots, your digital meter won't have a quick enough response time to see it. But on this guy, you'll see the needle going up, and you'll see it like fall just a little if there's a dead spot that you go by. So I think having a good analog meter is really a good idea still, to have one of these. This one is my first meter that I've had since I was a kid. I think I got it for a birthday or something. This is also like a Radio Shack meter, but you can still find good analog meters around, especially like used ones on eBay. This one is a Micronta. It's a catalog number 22210 from Radio Shack. You probably can find these on eBay if you wanted to. And then when you want to get really powerful, you want to be able to check your measurement, like voltage or amperage, but you want to be able to do it at a regular rate. You want to sample that at a regular rate over time and graph it as a curve, right? Or a line, and that is what an oscilloscope does. So I can't afford like the $10,000 Pico scope McThingamabob. I'm not a full-time mechanic. That's not what I do for a living. And I have like training and books and things that I have to invest in for my real job that are very expensive. So I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a Pico scope. But I did get this. These are, actually I got two of them. I only have one set of probes. Got it on eBay, really cheap, for like 50 bucks, but I think they had it listed wrong. These normally go for about 400 on eBay. But there are a lot of Chinese meters, scopes and stuff that are a little cheaper. But this is, I've been playing with this. It's pretty nice. The problem is it only does up to 10 volts. Yeah, it came with a little set of scopes. This only has 2 channels. 4 would be better. But it's got 2 channels and an external trigger. But this will get me able to see a lot of things that I couldn't see before. It's USB. It just plugs right into your laptop. You download the software, and you can see it right on your laptop. So I think it's going to be a good scope for me to start being able to do a little bit more advanced diagnosis. But there are times when you want to graph 3 or 4 things, and I can only do up to 2 on this. But it was like 50 bucks versus $10,000. And then I'm going to be building my own pressure transducer. So I've got the actual pressure transducer itself. And basically, you put a 5-volt input source on this. It comes with your little connector. Okay, and then it's going to give you a voltage out on one of the pins, and that's what you'll hook to your oscilloscope. And as the pressure changes, that voltage will change, and you'll be able to tell by what the voltage was what the pressure was. So I'll adapt this end to go to a spark plug hole, and then I'm just going to build a simple LM7805 circuit. It's one integrated circuit, a couple capacitors, and it'll regulate anywhere from like 30 volts down to 5 volts. So I can then like clip that on the battery, or I'll put a 9-volt battery in it, and that'll give 5 volts to feed this, and then I'll measure the power coming off, and that'll tell me my pressure, and then I can get a pressure wave on my scope when the piston's coming up and down, and I can see that on the scope. And then I can put that on one trigger, and then I can hook into like the primary ignition coil, off the coil or whatever, the primary ignition source, and then I can see when that comes up, and then it'll flatten out, and then right when it drops is when the spark happens. And I can see when top dead center is exactly from the pressure transducer, and I can see what the timing is on an engine that way. So I'm just playing around trying to learn how to see and do some of that stuff. The other thing I think this would come in handy for is testing wheel speed sensors, any type of ring sensor, the ones that put out an AC voltage. A lot of cam and crank sensors also operate that way. So there's quite a bit I'll be able to do with this little 2-channel scope, I think, and without investing a whole ton of money. So that's the main thing I wanted to tell people. I see so many people that just don't know anything about electronics. They're confused, and they're running AutoZone because they got a code, and AutoZone's like, oh, well, you want to try plug wires and plugs, and you want to try a coil, you might want to try this, you want to try that. And thousands of dollars later, sometimes, they finally take it to a shop and find out it might have just been a relatively simple issue. Might have just been a broken wire, or it might have been a PCM. but they didn't have any ability to really troubleshoot that, because you know, the main thing I'm finding about troubleshooting is it's not magic. It's not like I can magically know by looking at certain things what the problem's going to be. It's more about knowing how things actually operate, right? Knowing what that sensor does and how it does it gets you the ability to form an hypothesis and know how to test it. And so knowing, and part of that is knowing a little bit about electronics and what they do. So, you know, this is a book I'd highly recommend if you're just wanting to get started and get to know a little bit about electronics. Anyway, that's it. I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom, your frugal prepper. Everybody, have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later.